Now, although the trade deadline is still a little ways away, conversation has started to pick up on who the Leafs should be targeting at the trade deadline. For me, the biggest target that I think is defense. If the last few weeks or if the last month or so has shown anything, it's shown that we have the offense. We can score upwards of 5 goals a game, no problem. Our issues over the last few weeks have come with dropping leads. So being up 5-1, 4-1, and then dropping leads, which speaks to the struggles that our defense still has hidden in the cracks. I've spoken, our defense has improved, especially since last season. It has improved. There's just still a few weak points, and I think it comes from the young half of our defensive pairing. So the Dermott, the Liljegren, the Sandin, and the Hall. I think it still comes from them. Brody, Riley, Muzzin, they've been consistent. They've been doing what they're supposed to be doing. Muzzin has fallen off a bit, but I think it's because he doesn't have the right partner with him on that pairing, which, spoiler alert, is I think what they need to target. They need to target a new pairing, a new defensive partner for Muzzin to create that shutdown pairing. And then they have Sandin and whoever they decide to keep. I definitely think it's going to be Sandin. I think it's going to be Sandin and Hall. I'll just put that out there now, but I'll get into it. So I know at the beginning of the season, like I just said, I was talking about how much the D has developed and tightened up, which it has. But I think that if there is an opportunity to bring in another D for that defensive, a top 4 D for that shutdown role, Dubas should take it. The last couple months, like I said, I think showed some weak points in our defense, speaking specifically about the recent habit of dropping leads. Because, our goaltending, Campbell hasn't been his usual self. I think January was his off month. I know goalies normally have, they have an off month. So I think that was January for him. I do think he will get back to normal. It's inevitable. But the reason they were put in those situations where those types of shots were being put on net that ended up in the back of the net, those situations we were put in came from the weak exits, the giveaways in our defensive zone, just poor defensive structure. That's where those goals rooted from. That's where they stemmed from. And then obviously it didn't help that our goaltending wasn't as strong. But the point is Campbell shouldn't have been in those situations to make those types of saves in the first place. Now, I'm not pinning the games against the D only. There were points in the game, obviously there were saves that Campbell should have made, but there were also points in the game where the whole team kind of just froze, even offensively. And even the forwards not coming back or not playing proper defense. It's hard for them to get out of those moments where they kind of just have a brain freeze. So it was the team as a whole, but I think it rooted from the defense for sure. And especially in those times where they do freeze and they do get stuck in the defensive zone, that's the role of the D to step up, throw hits to get the puck back, shoot the puck up, and then get the forwards going again. That's the role of the D when you're stuck in the defensive zone. Throw a hit and get the puck back. So just like it's the forwards' role to score and score and score, because in those games where they dropped leads, we scored, like I said, we scored about 3 to 5 goals every one of those games. So the forwards are doing their work. I think the strength needs to pick up a bit more on the defensive side, and maybe, possibly, most likely, a top 4 D-man can help with that. That's where I think the improvement needs to happen, because I don't think Hall is the proper person, at least just yet. He's not the proper person to have there. That's not the role Sandin plays either, although he has been known to throw a few hits here and there. He's more offensive, and definitely that's not Dermott or Liljegren either. Now, goalie is another position I would look to improve, but the chances of a better suitor for backup than Mrazek being available for less money at the deadline are very slim. That seems more like an off-season project for Dubas to take on, especially with the Campbell contract negotiations going on this summer. I don't think it would be smart to start playing around with the goalies just yet. Forwards, I really don't think we need to touch, especially because of how well the more minor pieces, I guess you can say, are doing, like Bunting, Kerfoot, Mikheyev. All 3 of them have been having unreal seasons. I don't see any real concern in upgrading there. I do see potential for taking someone like Richie or Engvall and possibly using them to move to get a top 4 D-man, because I mean, we have like the guys that can play on the fourth line. If you were to take out Engvall, Semyonov, Anderson, like you have guys that you can throw in there. So I don't think that that's an issue if you were to move Richie or Engvall. But I definitely don't think there needs to be upgrading done there. If they want, they can get an extra depth piece to have, other than just resorting to Richie, Semyonov, Anderson. If they find another depth piece, they can do that. If they are able to get a depth piece and a top 4 D-man, that'd be ideal. But definitely priority is the top 4 D-man, because even the fourth line has been doing amazing. Guys like Engvall, Spezza, Simmons, they're producing a lot. They're getting a lot of offensive zone time. Even if it doesn't translate into actual points, they are getting that offensive zone time, which is it's especially what you need when you're trying to hold on to a lead. Getting that possession in the offensive zone is huge. And they've been able to do that for us. So basically, forwards are good. So now, who do we have to offer? I think our 2D that are or should be most vulnerable to a trade are Hall and Dermott. I've spoken about the pros and cons of each one. I favor Hall. I've compared them. I like Hall better. Those are the two movable pieces. Hall has also been said to have a higher trading value just because he's on the top pairing. He's in the top 2 pairings, so he does have a higher trade value, which might make him more attractive. The reason I like Hall better, I'll just say quickly, is because, specifically referring to previous seasons, Hall's potential, although right now it might not be the situation, Hall's potential is a lot higher than Dermott's. With Dermott, what we're seeing right now is what we get. With Hall, what we're seeing is not his highest potential, and that's something that can just turn on in a second. And specifically, we've seen that recently with him and Sandin. Him and Sandin as a pairing have been absolutely amazing. Defensively and offensively, they have been crushing it. So maybe Sandin is someone who can get Hall to perform at his highest potential, which he played with last season, which is why I think it might be more worth to hold on to him and then have Hall and Sandin as the bottom pairing. But both of them are vulnerable. Richie's another vulnerable piece too. I just think that his trial with the Leafs has come to a close. I'm not really sure there's a role left for him to play on the team other than subbing in and out in a busy time or if someone gets hurt. But I think we have other eligible people, like I mentioned Semyonov, for example. Like we have other eligible people that can step in. So I don't really think he has a crucial role on the team anymore. And then Engvall, like I said, I think he's an attractive moving piece. I mean, he's a very suitable fourth line player. For certain teams, he could be considered a third line player. So I also think recently he's increased his trade value. He has been a bit more consistent in terms of getting points, assisting, scoring. He's been a bit more consistent with his performance, which may have increased his trade value. So he could be an attractive piece as well. Now, for players who could come to Toronto, there's a few that I've heard. I've heard Klingberg from Dallas. He's right D-man, which we know is very valuable. Right D-men are valuable in the market, and having another one besides just Hall would be pretty big. He has already expressed interest in leaving Dallas, which I think is another piece that might make the transition a bit easier. He's in the last year of his contract at $4.25 million. And he's a top pairing defenseman. He's been great for Dallas. He, I guess, just wants a change of scenery, not meshing right with coaching staff. He has been compared to Riley. So he's comparable to Riley, which would be a perfect... I think it would be maybe not a perfect fit. I think it would be a great fit because other than Sandin, who's not fully there yet, we do not have another strong offensive defenseman. We've got Riley on the first pairing, Sandin on the last pairing, and then that second pairing, it has been Hall and Muzzin. Now it's changed to Hall and Sandin. Even if that's the case, Liljegren's not really offensive just yet. Muzzin's not offensive. So we have two. I think having one per line would be great. So that's a reason why I think they should be targeting him to get that strong offensive defenseman. Now, at the same time, you can argue that we don't need offense, so it kind of goes against what I was just saying, where we don't need offense. He has other elements to his game as well, though. He's also strong on the power play, which could help improve the second unit, although the power play has not been struggling really as of late, so he might be, I don't know if a waste of resources, maybe, not really getting in return exactly what we need right now. Although he is an attractive piece to get, it just might not be exactly what we need to get right now. Another target that has been mentioned is Chitran from the Coyotes. He's a lefty. His contract covers up to and including the 2024-25 season at $4.6 per year. So he's a bit more. He's a lefty man, and he's currently on the bottom pairing with the Coyotes. It could be argued that the Coyotes are not using him properly, because it could be argued that the Coyotes don't know how to use him properly. He has been labeled one of the best two-way defensemen in the league, but this season he has not been good at all, really. He's got 8 points in 32 games. That could be changed by the time you are watching this video, and a league worst -31 for plus-minus rating. So again, it could be because he's not being used properly. That is totally valid. But at the same time, if that's how his season is currently going and you bring someone like him in, is the second half of a season enough for him to turn things around and get back to how he was? Or is he going to need more time? Because ideally, we want someone for right now. We want someone for the rest of the season. But if he's not able to come in and turn things around right away, then we're going to be stuck with someone who is performing less than the guys that we currently have. So that's why I'd be wary with him. And then Josh Manson has been mentioned as another target from the Ducks. He's a right D-man. Last year of his contract at 4.1. He has a different style of play. He's more like the Muzzin type, which would be ideal for that shutdown pairing I was talking about. He's not a point producer. Like I said, would be used in that shutdown role, most likely with Muzzin, leaving Sandin ideally with Hall. Apparently, the Leafs are on his no-trade list, though, so it would take a lot to even make it possible, so the chances of that happening are pretty slim. And then the last one that I've heard of is Sharat from Montreal. It could pose issues because I don't know if a trade between the Leafs and Habs is something that realistically could happen given history and given just the relations between the teams. But they did get a new GM, so this new GM could be approaching things differently, which could be a good sign for the Leafs. And I think Dubas is really open to having anything happen. I don't think that that's something he would... It doesn't seem like he'd be paying attention to that. I feel like he's open to making a lot of things possible. So to me, breaking these guys down, it sounds like Chitran will be a liability, and he is more expensive. I also forgot to mention Sharat is at $3.5 million, and he's in the last year of his contract. He's a lefty, and we know what he's capable of because we see him quite often with playing against the Leafs. So Chitran, to me, sounds like he'd be a liability, and he's more expensive. I don't think he'll be able to turn it up for when we need it. Klingberg's having a great season. He's in the last year of his contract. He is right-handed, which is a bonus, something that the Leafs need more of. Manson's also right-handed D-man. I'm not really going to pay attention to Manson because if we're on his no-trade list, I really don't think that it's going to happen. And then Sharat, we know he would be... I think between him and Klingberg would be ideal. I just don't know if Klingberg would be able to provide that shutdown role. I think he would be able to adapt because he's a top defenseman comparable to Riley. I think he would be able to adapt to the situation that he's put in. I definitely think him and Muzzin would be able to form a similar Riley-Brody kind of relationship. So that's why he's kind of sticking out for me. And then Sharat is kind of sticking out for me too, even though he's from Montreal, because I think him and Muzzin, I think, would work super well together. So we'll have to see what happens. Those are the targets I've heard of, but I will definitely update as the weeks get closer to the trade deadline to see who the Leafs can offer and what the Leafs should be looking for.